Hi, welcome back to the Atlantis Series. In part 1 we talked about the story of Atlantis. Today we're going to be talking about where that story came from. Now we only have one surviving source that really talks in any detail about Atlantis at all, and that comes to us from the 5th century Athenian philosopher Plato. Now Plato lived during the golden age of Athens. This is the time where the city-state was the most prosperous it had ever been. It had just come off of a war, it was flourishing, wealthy, people were powerful, but Plato also lived during the time of the Peloponnesian War, where the Spartans, with the aid of the Persians, came and destroyed Athens. This was at the end of the Golden Age, and we're going to talk a lot more about that and a lot more in depth later on in the series, but right now we need to understand the time that Plato lived in so that we can understand his philosophical ideas and themes that he writes about in his works. Plato was born into a very powerful aristocratic family. He wasn't just some farmer that went out into the field or went to the shops and then came back home to his wife. His family had a lot of influence. Plato's father's lineage is said to come from an Athenian king. His mother's family is said to have had a relationship of some sort with the Athenian politician Solon, who becomes a very central character in Plato's Atlantean story, specifically in the Critias. As a philosopher, Plato was the student of Socrates, often using his teacher's voice in many of his own works. In fact, Plato never actually talked in his own voice in any of his works. He uses others in his dialogues to create an active conversation. The primary voice in the majority of Plato's works is Socrates, and through Socrates and thus Plato, the conversations that he has with these other players is really to determine the moral values that these people carry with them, and thus the Greek society, and more specifically the Athenian society, has with morality, justice, things like that. One of Plato's most famous works, The Republic, was written around 375 BCE. And through the dialogue, it's believed that the setting of this work is during the Peloponnesian War, which was from 431 BCE to 401 BCE. And this work centers around justice, just men, just laws, and more importantly, just city-states. Throughout the Republic, Socrates has conversation with both foreigners and Athenians to determine what makes a man just, what makes a just city-state, what makes laws just, and what values and morals those people carry with them in order to determine that justice. And why I chose to add it to the Atlantean series, even though it doesn't talk about Atlantis specifically, is because it talks about a utopian city called Calibulus. Now, Calibulus never existed. It's a hypothetical city that Plato created in his works to highlight what a just city-state looks like, what a morally high city-state looks like. It's ruled by a philosopher king, and instead of a politician, he rules by morals rather than by laws. The Republic also discusses one of Plato's most famous allegorical stories, and that's of the cave, where Socrates is having a conversation with Plato's brother Glaucon. And in this, it talks about what is real and what's perceived to be real. Reality versus what we as human beings understand to be real, and that they don't always mesh together. Ultimately, Plato is no stranger to allegories, hypotheticals, literary and philosophical themes of the time. An aristocrat by birth, a philosopher by education, Plato really understood Athenian society as it was undergoing this very tumultuous change from the golden era of the city-state to the utter destruction by Sparta. This is the man that would go on to create the story of Atlantis. And now that we have a little detail on Plato's background and his life, we're going to now discuss the Timaeus and Critias. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments, please leave them. If you have any questions, definitely ask. As always, my sources and more information will be in the comments or the description. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.